Hey, this is really, it feels extremely important for us coming back home again, knowing we're winding down the season almost. You know, we have a few chances left. We got to make the most of it coming back to CenturyLink. It's a great matchup, that we've played for years. Feels like playing a team that's in the division. We've been that familiar with these guys, and I know they've had a tough start to this season, but they still look like a very good team and a very dangerous team. And they've had so many close games. We know that they're going to be fighting like crazy, and we're going to have to play really well. It's a week we have to bounce back and play good football, and we have set our sights on that. And we're going to really work at the things we need to clean up, and hopefully we can put together a much better football game. But these guys are good, and we know it, and they've got highlighted players everywhere. So.
Do you have any more indication on Earl Thomas's status?
He's going to work today. We'll see how he does. It's going to be a day-to-day thing. See how he makes it through the week. So he'll be out of practice today.
How about Deshaun Shedd?
Same.
And Michael Bennett still on track to return this week?
Yes. Again, he's got to go through practice and see if he makes it through the week and all that. Those guys are kind of all in the same boat.
Obviously, didn't want to be without Mike, but long run, can that help you, the experience of guys like Frank and Cassius Scott?
No, I think it definitely did. I think we were very fortunate that Frank was able to step into that spot. We saw Frank play really good football, and with more exposure, he just showed up more. And so it gives us a really good opportunity for rotation. It's a good thing for us. So I think anybody that gets to play mid-year like this that hasn't been playing much, it's a benefit for our team as well as the individual.
How different does Cam Newton and their whole offensive attack look to you this year compared to?
It doesn't look different. It looks very much the same. They have the tremendous variety of runs. We always talk about that when we play these guys. Nobody has as many run styles as they do because of the quarterback and what he adds. They're in Wildcat every snap, and they're in the shotgun, and that's a loaded running opportunity. They've got an advantage in that numbers-wise, and they know what they're doing. They run everything they need to do to take full advantage of that. And they're still chucking the ball down the field and making plays with their big guys. They have a tremendous receiving crew with nice variety. And anytime you got Jonathan Stewart back there, he's a problem. And we've played against him forever. Someday we won't have to play against him, but right now he's still balling and doing good stuff. And it seems like I've been playing against him the last 20 years.
Carolina's offensive line has gone through some shuffling this season. When you look at them, how do you think they're handling that?
Well, in particular, I think a good indicator was last week. They came right back in that football game against the Raiders and went out ahead and had a great finish to that game, all but the last drive. And Larson jumped in, did a nice job, and Trey jumped out to tackle. They did some nice stuff with those guys. So everybody's got tough situations, at this time of year in some spot or another, and they're battling through it.
On defense, you guys have battled through some injuries, but you're still top in scoring defense right now. Just what have you learned about that group and the depth and everything overall this year?
Well, I think we've seen our guys, keep their style, and we haven't lost our style of play. We have. There's some areas that we haven't played as well in, though. We haven't done as well in third downs. We haven't done as well in the running game as we would like. So maybe we can improve those to the finish of the season, I'm hoping. But it is, the philosophy is in hand, and the guys stepped in and they did their job to maintain it. And I thought there were some tremendous illustrations of that. Stephen Terrell played really good last week. It was great to see Nico play, like we talked about. Frank, stepping up into Mike's role, did a beautiful job, and so there's other guys that have contributed, and that's just a good sign for us. We're real happy with that the depth came through for us.
What have you seen with the rush defense? I think teams have gone up for over 100 on you in 5 of the last 6
Well,
games.
part of it is they're rushing at 34, 35, 36 times. The average is we're still 3.7 a rush or something, which is kind of where we, when we're doing okay. But it's numbers of rushes that has to do with the games and how we're playing them a little bit. But we can do better. There's been a few more explosives. We're usually really good, and we're still pretty much on top of it with explosive runs. But we can do better, and so that's an area we want to improve at.
Has KJ Wright taken a step forward this year, or just kind of more of the same?
I think he's played great all year long. I think he had an exceptional game last week. I think he jumped out. Really, between he and Bobby, it depends on their opportunities. And when you give them the opportunities, they basically are making their plays. Bobby's had an incredible year, but I think KJ has as well. Last week in particular, just all of the stuff that was put in front of KJ, he jumped and made a big play, knocked the guy down the backfield, played reverses, knocked the ball down, all that kind of stuff. So I just think it was he had the ops, and their play has been really consistent.
He talked about the play before the half when he kept the guy in bounds, that being something you guys practice. I mean, is that how often do you guys
Yeah,
practice?
that was a huge play. Yeah, look what it took points off the board. They would have kicked a field goal right there, and it was a legitimate. I thought it was a very good call. We've seen that call kind of earlier in the year, and I thought that was really well done right there. That's what we try to do, and KJ made a phenomenal play to knock the guy back and get the clock stopped, or keep the clock rolling.
How much of what he does is his ability to recognize things pre-snap and just sort of diagnose a play?
Early on, when we first had KJ, we started him playing outside, and we had some conversation about it, and he was really wanting to play inside, and it's because of his instincts and it's because of his familiarity. He's just grown up as an inside linebacker, and he really has a great feel for reading behind the line of scrimmage and all of that. That was really obvious from the start. So I just think it's his best spot. He can still play outside, and he does at times anyway, but he has great versatility. But I think it's just basically because he's so instinctive and so natural as a football player.
Pete, I think you mentioned on Monday that you would have liked to have run the ball more last weekend. Looking back on that, is it ever appropriate for you to step in and tell Darryl, let's just...
I absolutely would do that. I do that all the time. I do that at times, and a lot of times I say just more of the same. You're doing it. You're on it. More of the same, But we're in conversation the whole time. I took that. I personally wish I would have said something, and then we would have done it. And we got caught up in the game a little bit and didn't do that as well as we could have. So sometimes we screwed up. And I thought I did. I thought we should have stayed with it and made them have to stop us first, and we wouldn't have had to face the issues that we were facing with the pass rush as much. So it's a second, and it's an afterthought and hindsight and all that kind of stuff. But I'd let you inside on that a little bit a couple days ago.
When you're in that situation, in that what you're just talking about, is that something where you prefer to go up to Darryl or Chris personally and say that to him, or do you do that over the headset? I know all sorts of coaches do it different ways.
I'm interested that you're even interested in that thought. Yes, both. It just depends on what the situation is. The guy standing right there, I talk to him. We take our headsets off. If not, whatever. That's just we have an ongoing conversation. We openly communicate all the time, and I'm very respectful of the play caller's mentality. He needs clean air. He needs no confusion, quiet, so that he can make his calls. So there's times when you pick and choose to do that. Occasionally, I think we screwed up, and yap at him at the wrong time, but I'm pretty good at it, and in general, and try to support him more, and both guys. But it would come in different fashions depending on the situation, time of the game, and all that.
How do you assess the performance of Thomas Rawls?
I think he's just getting back. I think this is a preseason game 3. Is really what I think it is, and he had 12 carries last week, and judging from how he responded from the first game, it hit him pretty hard. He took a load, and we said that pretty openly. He looks better this coming out today in walkthrough. He looks like he's on the way back, after taking the first time round hits. He looks like he's endured that somewhat, and I think we're going to get a better week out of him. I think he was a little bit stoved up last week. Asked me to define stoved up. I'll give it to you.
Define stoved up.
Yeah, it's just kind of stiff, kind of general loggy, you just don't quite feel it, and you got to fight through it, just kind of like when you guys get up in the morning.
Carolina had the Super Bowl year last year. They scuffled around early, and then it seems fairly typical of some of the Super Bowl hangover. And you have a thought or two why you guys have never had that drop, that significant drop.
Well, we fortunately made it through the impact of the effect of the Super Bowls. Remember, both years we started sloppily in the early part of the season. But there is, I think there's a whole thing to that. I got a lot of thoughts about that. I won't share it all with you, but I think you have to be prepared for it way before you ever get to it. If it's the first time you're ever talking about it, I think you might not be able to have grounded thoughts and approach to deal with it, because it's an enormous impact, win or lose. I think I've tried to share that with you guys, that it affects you regardless of what the outcome was, and how you handle it is what's so crucial. And I think if you don't have a mentality for handling past experiences and how you're going to deal with that in a disciplined fashion, when you hit it for the first time, you don't know what's going to happen. And lots of times it has an effect that you didn't anticipate, and you weren't able to head off, and it gets you. There's a big history, of teams really struggling after a year of going, and particularly when the teams win, they have a big problem. But it's hard anyway.
And national championships at USC inform your preparation for that?
I don't think there's any question. We were in that mode for a long time, and I feel very comfortable with it. And I think there's a whole dialogue and mentality and approach that is something that you have to seed early to be able to endure it, because the impact can be so overwhelming at times. So I do think there's a lot to it.
How do you choose between talking like big picture with your team, whether it be about expectations or things kind of down the road, versus the week to week staying focused?
You're doing good today. Working on your homework here. I don't think you ever are not dealing with the impact of the expectations, whatever they are. The expectations that come at you from yourself, that's within your building. Expectations that come from the outside, from the media, from just all walks. And I think you again, I go back to it. I think it takes an ongoing conversation and approach to deal with that, so that when the time comes and the unanticipated occurrences start to knock at you, you can handle them. And so I think there's a real discipline to it. And so there's language, there's dialogue, there are expectations, there how you practice and present it. So I particularly like that. I think I love this whole thing that we're in, to try the mentality to try and keep from being up and down and being normal, which most teams go up and down a lot. We're trying to not be that style, and over a long haul, that's when you can look back and see how you've done. It's hard to see that when you're in the middle of it, but it's a great challenge in all sports.
Why do you like
Experience?
Because there's so much to it. I think there's a tremendous amount going on there, and you have, as a coach, you have an opportunity to deal with that with individuals, with coaches, with the fans, with how you express it to the media. I think it's an ongoing endeavor to try to maintain the kind of focus and discipline and continuity that you need to not be up and down and be like most people, teams
Was there
are.
an experience in your coaching career that really clued you in to how important that is?
There was a moment, matter of fact, and it was the first game I ever coached as a head coach at the Jets. We had won in Buffalo in the opening game of the year, and some of you guys will recognize the story. And after the game, it was a big win, first game ever, and all that kind of stuff was cool. And they were a great team at the time, so we were very fortunate. And I walked back into the stadium and was taking the moment just to kind of, suck up all the joy of it and the fun and all that. And I looked back, and on the stadium wall they had their the accounting of their division championships, and there was like 8 of them in a row or something like that. It's when Marv was there, and they just were killing it. They had great teams, and it hit me in that moment that even though they hadn't won the Super Bowls, they had lost at the time. I think they'd already lost 4 of them, and that was a symbol of success, and that was what you're really after. That's what you're looking for in putting your team together. Teams that can come back year after year after year after year and maintain a high level of performance. And that's why to win a Super Bowl or win a national championship, that's cool. It's a great thing. It's fun and all that. But to me, that's not the ultimate. There's way more than that. And it's about showing the ability to be consistent. So that's where it started. That's where my mentality was clicked into. How can we find a way to carry this conversation with the players and the people that affect the program in a really consistent, highly successful way. So.
Peter, I got a 3-part question for you.
Cool.
Ready? Who's your
Sure,
starting
help me
right
if I need help on this one, please.
Who's your starting right tackle Sunday? And is Britt back at center? And is Fant still your guy at left tackle?
Oh, that's easy. You've got Bradley Sal's going to start at right tackle in this game, and Britt looks to be in really good shape, ready to go. He had a very good first walkthrough today, so I think he'll be all right. But he has to make it through, and Joey will be ready to go. And I'm expecting George to really turn it around. Yeah, I think he'll come right back. Like I said, nobody played very well up there for us last week, and we're all determined to get that turned around.
Pete, you guys seemingly have been as good as anybody in a long, long time at avoiding that emotional no-show that you see from just about every other team. You've complimented your players on that. Having said that, did you think that there was a little bit of flatness in the game?
We were not right. I thought I mentioned that right off the bat, Hugh, but if you want me to say it again, I will. We were not right, and I just felt like I didn't didn't get connected to the challenge of that team, that game, based on what happened the week before and all of the things that entered into that. And they went right down the field on our defense. Our offense couldn't make a first down. We couldn't do anything, which you've seen that on the road sometimes in the past, and we bounced back. Defense bounced back beautifully in the game. They came back and played 3 great quarters of football. Offensively, we couldn't find it, and we just couldn't get right, and it affected the outcome of the game, of course, in a really close game. We were right within striking distance the whole time. So, yeah, we were not right, and so unfortunately, that which can happen did, and so it's too bad.
Just to clarify, I meant.
You just want me to say it again?
No,
No, that's what you said. You never heard me mention that word.
Is Troy Maine Pope, you talked on Monday, maybe has a chance to get back? Or?
Yeah, he looked pretty good, and we'll just have to see what happens. I was really surprised at how quick he looked just in the walkthrough today, so we'll see what happens.
How's Luke Wilson doing?
He's talking about trying to get back this week. It's going to be an amazing turnaround if he does, but he's already running, so we'll see what happens.
Demontre Moore, does he have a chance? Or?
Yeah, he thinks he does. And talking to him this morning, he thinks he does. We'll see what happens. There's really, you've asked these guys, there's probably 7 or 8 guys that are going to have to go all the way through till Saturday and get to game time to figure it out. And, we'll, depending on how they do, we'll go on with other guys until they show that they can help us.
Pete, you've been pretty complimentary to the way Gary Gilliam has progressed so far. What's led to the point where now you're giving Salvo a start?
Just competition. It's about the competition, really.
How would you assess his year in totality, Gary's?
I think the opportunity for somebody else to take his spot was there, and so we're going to see how Brad looks and see how he does.
Going back to the conversation of after the Super Bowls and kind of getting back on track, for you, is there a regular, if things are out of whack, this is what I do, or does it depend on the situation and how you assess each?
There's an approach, there's a language. I mean, there are guys, numbingly hear it over and over, but I think you have to adapt to, all of what the variables and the people that are involved in, what happened and all that. But the main line and the philosophy stays the same, It's about getting back to focus and staying on course and letting things go that you can't control, and all of those kinds of things are really where our focus comes to.
Would you get Carolina had a situation last year where they decided to let Josh Norman go, salary, all of that. Without commenting on that, what's your protocol for those kinds of big decisions about how to pay players relative to their value and relative to
what's our protocol? Well, we've talked about this before. This is there's a big plan. There's a big plan that's already kind of in motion, and John does everything he can to stay ahead of all of the variables here, and we just, our protocol, to satisfy your question here, is that we just talk our way through it and work our way through it and try to use all of the information that's available and all of the time that's available to do it. We try not to rush to judgment on any of this stuff, and just try to make the very best choices based on what we feel in our gut, and that's kind of how we've done it. And we've been very systematic and very determined to maintain the players that have really been the guys we thought were the heart and soul, and we've done that at every turn, and we'll continue to do that, and we'll do that until we can't. When there will be some opportunities where you just can't do that, and hard decisions come your way, and you have to deal with them. So I think it's been pretty clear. I think we've been pretty well documented in that regard.
Pete, any thoughts on Washington playing for the conference championship Friday night?
Oh, man. Yeah. This is a great matchup. Really exciting for the Northwest and all, and for Coach Peterson and his staff. They just have done a fantastic job. This is such a good team, and they deserve to be way up there where they are. And I would think any team that had to play them that doesn't know them well, the teams from other areas of the country are going to be very wary when they see how well they play across the board, because they're not just a good offense or a good defense, or they've got everything working, and they're a very challenging team to play. So, I think it's really exciting. I can't wait to see what happens.
Anything else? Thank you.